Another controversial topic, NCAA tournament expansion, being talked about a lot. Brett Yormark was asked about it. That is, he's talked about it in the past. He's all for it. Most of the power leagues are all for it. Bill Self made a comment earlier in the week that he's all for it. So we're going to talk about that. Though, before I do that, though, I want to give another shout out to the other sponsor you see here in the corner, Appalachia Digital. I have a new website, still fairly new, called wvsportschat.com, which, by the way, we are looking to start trying to build and do a lot more work on. But they designed that website. Again, it's wvsportschat.com. Go check it out. They did a fantastic job designing it. If you want to design yourself a brand new website, or you want to get your current site found easier on Google, the fine folks over at Appalachia Digital can help with that. Go to appalachiadigital.com/Couz. Let them know I sent you, and check them out today, and they will be glad to help you with your needs. Now, David Rumsey, again, another great article on NCAA tournament expansion, looking to expand to 62 or to 72 or 76 is what he's saying here. But there's something in this article that is baffling to me. Most fans, I haven't seen one fan yet that is for expanding the NCAA tournament. So it's a little frustrating to me that these power leagues are not listening to their fan bases, which I don't know why we're surprised by it. They never have. But nonetheless, they're not listening to us fans. We don't want the NCAA tournament to expand. Leave it the way it is. It really didn't even need to expand to 68. But, we can live with that. It's only, 4 more games? So, we can live with it. But, man, come on. To go to 7, why do you need to go to 72? Yes, it would have benefited West Virginia this past year. And every year there are teams that would benefit. But at the end of the day, how often are we going to see those teams winning a national championship? Maybe once in a while. Maybe they make a Final Four run like we saw UCLA do a few years ago, going from the play-in game to the Final Four. It's possible. But, man, why do we need to keep growing this thing? It's one of the few things in sports that really hasn't been messed with a ton anyway over the years. It's been tweaked a little, but hasn't been, revamped or redone or expanded, or they always think bigger is not always better, man. In college sports, especially these big 16, 18 team conferences, it's not better. A 72 or 76 team NCAA tournament is not better. And I'm going to say, I'm starting to wonder if an expanded college football playoff was even better. I was all for it at first, but I'm starting to think our guy Josh Pate may have been onto something. They're trying to make a mess of it now. So I guess time will tell. We're only 1 year into that, but my point is, bigger's not always better. Don't mess with the NCAA tournament. I think they feel like there's going to be financial benefits to doing it, because it says in this article they don't plan on adding any more automatic berths through conference championships, because there are no more conference champions to crown. Right? They're crowning them all already. So it would all be at-large bids. So what's that mean? That means you're going to see more power conference teams in the NCAA tournament most years. That additional 6 to 8 teams that get in, I'd say 75, 80, 90% of those will be Power 4 teams most of the time. And here's the kicker, though. In this article by Mr. Rumsey, which, again, I'll link to in the description after the show, it says, NCAA President Charlie Baker said discussions are underway with March Madness media rights holders, CBS and Warner Brothers Discovery, about expanding the men's tournament from 68 to 72 or 76 teams beginning in 2026. So they want to do it as early as this coming college basketball season. He says, we've had good conversations with CBS and WBD, Baker said Thursday at the Big 12 spring meetings. Our goal here is to try to either get to yes or no sometime in the next few months, because there's a lot of logistical work that would be associated with doing this if we were to go down this road, end quote. He says Baker confirmed expansion would come immediately. That would be the goal, to try and do this for next year, which is why the window to actually negotiate it will probably end sometime early summer, he said. We've been talking about 72 and 76. Those have been the numbers the basketball committee has talked about. It would obviously be one or the other, won't be more. Thank goodness. Talks about Bill Self's comments, talks about Brett Yormark's comments, which, basically echoing what Charlie Baker's saying. Here's the part of the article that I thought that this really irks me. Okay. Not only they're not listening to the fans, according to this article, there may not even be much financial incentive to do this. Listen to this quote. It says, Thursday afternoon, media executives told Front Office Sports that the additional games were not worth much. One executive who declined to be named was very straightforward, and he said, and I quote, I believe CBS and TNT will offer them zero or a minus amount. They're expanding the earliest round for no apparent reason, other than the powers that be think it's worth more, end quote. This executive, now obviously he said this anonymously, he doesn't think TNT and CBS will give them more money. So if they're not going to give them more money, then don't do it. And hopefully they won't. There's a part of me that hopes Warner Brothers and CBS says, we're not giving you more money. We don't want to mess this up. This is a good thing. Let's keep it where we're at. And oh, by the way, we don't need to be spending this extra money on a couple more games of teams that likely aren't really going to move the needle all that much. Let's be honest. So they would rather put their money probably in the football, more football games or something, or more pro sports, something like that. The NCAA tournament's extremely popular, don't get me wrong, but it's still not as popular as pro football, and college football. So that quote there really struck me as ironic. So maybe there's a possibility here that this gets nixed by the TV networks. Maybe the TV networks don't want to do this. It's very possible. It says, while Baker said the NCAA has no intention of changing the 31 automatic qualifiers, which I mentioned earlier, for March Madness, he admitted those entries keep out teams that are tournament worthy in his mind. And he talks about how if you got, there are always tournament worthy teams left out. It's going to be, if you go to 76, teams 77 and 78 are going to argue they were tournament worthy. It's not going to change. There's always going to, anytime you have these objective, or I guess these subjective committees picking tournament participants, which has always been the case in college sports, there's going to be teams feel like they got screwed. It happens every single year. I don't care if you have 4 teams. I don't care if you have 12 teams. I don't care if you have 64, 68, 76. It doesn't matter. Stop screwing up a good thing, chasing a buck. It's getting old, man. At some point, fans are going to start turning the TV off. You're going to water everything down, chasing a buck, and you're ruining the product. Quit messing with the product. And again, this is coming from a fan of a team who would have gotten in under this scenario a season ago. Doesn't matter. That was one season. You don't want to base a decision on one season like SEC's trying to get them to do over the college football playoff. Yeah, they have a team that should have gotten in, left out one season, and they're throwing a hissy fit. It's not needed. There's always going to be a team left out regardless of how many teams you have in it. Unless you put every single team in the NCAA in the tournament, somebody's getting left out. Enough's enough. H. Ball Farkle says, I believe the NCAA tournament is as close to perfect as anything done by the NCAA. Leave it alone. Great comment, H. Bar Farkle. And I agree. I was actually going to use the word perfect. I refrain from it just because I don't like using that word, but it's true. It's the closest thing to perfect they have. It's the one thing the NCAA does right. We can on here, we can complain about the NCAA, how they impose infractions and how they create rules or don't make rules, whatever. We can, and all that's justified. But the one thing they do extremely well is put on the NCAA, and really all their postseason tournaments usually turn out I don't follow a ton of other college sports, but the NCAA knows how to host a postseason tournament. And they do it well. It's the one thing they do well. Don't screw it up. And of course, it would still be the NCAA. I get that. It would still be the NCAA controlling it, but we don't need to expand it, man. We don't need to expand it. Just leave it alone. The fans don't want it expanded. The media doesn't want it expanded. The only people who want it expanded are basically the Power 4 teams because they want to make more money for their conferences. That's the only maybe I'd love to hear from a mid-major school or mid-major AD or mid-major conference commissioner what they think about the expansion. Do they want it too? Who knows? And, if Greg Sankey gets his way, the Power Four will pull away from the NCAA anyway. And it won't matter. They'll do their own tournament, which would really screw things up. But anyway, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.